Can you imagine waking up to discover that your own father sold you to the most feared CEO in Haicheng? It's the ultimate betrayal. And it's exactly what just happened to Jiang Mo. No one told her that Fu Hansheng, rumored to be scarred and vengeful, would take her hostage in a twisted marriage contract. And here's the shocking part. He becomes obsessed with her in a single night, vowing to spoil her like no one ever has. Something unbelievable is brewing between a woman desperate for freedom and a man who holds the city in his iron grip. How did Jiang Mo find herself in this horrifying yet strangely addictive situation? Trust me, once you see what fate has in store for them, you won't be able to look away. 2 years before this fateful night, Fu Hansheng disappeared from Haicheng under the guise of being disfigured and crippled. In secret, he recuperated in another country, laying low. He publicly presented himself as a man on the brink of ruin. His company, the Fu Group, suffered a devastating plunge in its stock price after a critical accident. Yet, during that very same accident, an anonymous young woman saved his life. With her single act of kindness, she altered the course of his vengeance forever. Now, present-day Haicheng shivers at rumors that Fu Hansheng, fully healed, is back in town. Many do not realize that in truth he returned to claim revenge on the Jiang family, who once caused his downfall. And for Jiang Mo, the night that sealed her future with him was about to begin. In the hush of an ornate hotel suite, Jiang Mo banged on a locked door, tears glistening in her eyes. She could hardly believe her father had abandoned her to a man reputed to be monstrous in both temperament and appearance.
Dad! Let me out, Dad! How could you do this? I'm your daughter!
From the other side of the door came only cold silence. Her father's parting words had stung far more than the lock that now held her inside.
If you sleep with him tonight, only then will I consider you my daughter,
He had said.
If not, your mother will pay the price.
Jiang Mo's father, Jiang Ting, held her beloved mother captive. Torn by desperation, Jiang Mo searched the dark corners of the room, hoping for any means of escape. Suddenly, the faint sound of a door unlocking froze her in place. She spun around. A tall silhouette entered the bedroom, exuding a suffocating presence that made her blood turn cold.
So, the Jiang family is using women as bargaining chips. An interesting tactic.
His voice dripped with scorn.
Stay away from me! I never wanted any part of this!
Tension snapped like a drawn bowstring. In a moment of confusion and fear, Jiang Mo realized the wine she had been served was laced with something sinister, a drug that set her pulse racing and left her both hot and delirious. She tried to resist the sensations overtaking her, but her body began to betray her.
Your father claims to value you, yet leaves you here drugged and at my mercy. So despicable, it's outrageous.
He moved closer. Each step spelled danger. Jiang Mo, trembling in a haze, tried to defend herself with words.
You have no right to insult me. I didn't come here by choice.
And you think I'd believe that? You Jiang family people have a knack for filth. Hard to tell which one of you is lower.
Despite her indignation, Jiang Mo's body was on fire. She collapsed as her vision blurred. Through the dark haze, she felt strong arms catch her just before she hit the floor. Then, darkness swallowed her whole. Dawn's light crept through the curtains. Jiang Mo awakened with throbbing pain in her head and a flood of uncomfortable memories. She sat upright to see an unfamiliar yet handsome face, half shrouded by coldness. This can't be the disfigured man everyone warned me about, she thought, yet it was undeniably Fu Hansheng, legendary CEO of the Fu Group. Fu Hansheng, sternly, to an assistant named Ah Yong.
Find out which Jiang daughter was actually sent here last night. I have a suspicion it wasn't Jiang Man, the one officially betrothed to me.
Ah Yong, respectfully.
Yes, young master. I'll check immediately.
Jiang Mo had barely managed to scramble out of the bed, feeling dizzy and overwhelmed, when she heard her father's deep voice outside. He was complaining about the threat Fu Hansheng posed to the Jiang Group's future. She tried to confront him, but he barked his demands.
If you want to save your mother, do exactly as I say.
His cruelty stunned Jiang Mo yet again. Soon after, the truth emerged. The woman intended for Fu Hansheng was the glamorous Jiang Man, not Jiang Mo. But Jiang Ting had forcibly substituted Jiang Mo, his illegitimate daughter, thinking no one would notice. Now, with the deed done, Jiang Mo was bound more tightly to this dangerous man than she had ever imagined. Stealing her nerves, Jiang Mo cornered Fu Hansheng in one of the Fu family's expansive rooms.
You've called off the engagement to my sister. Why? Because you realized you slept with the wrong woman?
You have some nerve, barging in here demanding explanations as if I owe you one.
My father is using me like some sacrificial pawn. I'm here against my will. You must see that.
You want sympathy? Are you not aware of what your family did to me 2 years ago? I haven't forgotten that night on the riverside. But only one woman, my savior, keeps me tethered from complete revenge. You are not that woman.
She had no idea what he meant by savior, but it seemed to weigh heavily on his heart. Regardless, she needed him to marry her. She needed him to keep her mother safe from Jiang Ting's blackmail, yet his scathing remarks about her father's crimes made it clear he trusted no one in her family. Outside, the Jiang family's troubles with plummeting stock prices and rumored vendettas lit up the local business gossip. Meanwhile, Fu Hansheng planned to systematically dismantle the Jiang Empire. And Jiang Ting threatened,
If you fail to make Fu Hansheng truly marry you, your mother's medication stops.
That night, Jiang Mo followed Fu Hansheng to a private lounge, where he was meeting some key business associates. Although she had no desire to be present, she forced herself to come to gather leverage. Upon entering, she saw a rowdy group of men demanding drinks and entertainment from her. Associate 1, drunkenly,
Hey, Boss Fu, who's this feisty-looking lady? Bring her over.
She's nobody of importance. Pour them a drink.
but the men only grew bolder, trying to grope Jiang Mo's arm. She resisted, threatening them with an unwavering glare. Jiang Mo, voice trembling with fury.
If you touch me again, I'll kill you.
Laughter rang out in the room, and for a moment, Jiang Mo truly believed they would overpower her. Suddenly, a sharp, authoritative voice cut through the tension. Fu Hansheng, icily dangerous.
Did I say you could lay a finger on her?
In an instant, the entire atmosphere shifted. The men realized their mistake. They trembled under the violent wave of anger radiating from Fu Hansheng. He made sure they understood their place. No one touched what belonged to him without suffering consequences. Yet, in the privacy of the hallway, Jiang Mo lashed out at him, furious for using her as bait. Jiang Mo's defiance only seemed to fuel Fu Hansheng's twisted fascination. He arranged for her to stay the night in the mansion, claiming it was for her protection. She didn't trust him, but found no immediate way out. Fu Hansheng, quietly, behind closed doors.
I despise disloyalty, Jiang Mo. Don't forget that.
The words left her uneasy. Despite the friction, he had shown a faint gentleness when she collapsed from hunger. A staff member fussed over Jiang Mo's injuries, while Fu Hansheng retreated to brood in silence. That same night, he discovered a small object left behind in the guest room, something that sparked a hidden memory. His expression turned grim.
So it was you all along.
He murmured. In a desperate moment, by a dark riverbank, a stranger had pulled an injured Fu Hansheng from the water, saving him from certain death. She pressed a jade pendant into his hand and vanished into the night. That jade pendant became his only clue to finding the woman who saved him, and now it seemed that woman might be Jiang Mo. Sunlight pierced the drapes as Jiang Mo woke up to find an unexpected change in Fu Hansheng's demeanor. With the jade pendant in his hand, he confronted her gently, yet firmly.
Jiang Mo, you saved me once, didn't you?
She blinked, struggling to connect the dots in her groggy state. Jiang Mo, confused.
I don't recall. I saved a stranger at the riverside long ago, but that was...
Fu Hansheng, smiling faintly.
That was me. You risked your life to pull me out of that river.
He pressed the pendant into her hand. Fu Hansheng, solemnly,
From now on, you're my wife. I'll let no one else have you.
but that declaration, though it might sound romantic, was laced with danger. Jiang Mo couldn't forget how he'd been controlling and vengeful, especially toward her father. She also needed to rescue her mother, who remained hidden at an unknown location. Still, her guilt for having left him for dead on that riverbank, combined with her father's blackmail, kept her in this strange marriage. Day by day, she realized Fu Hansheng's power wasn't limited to cutthroat business moves. He was also cunning enough to manipulate others' loyalty. He alone decided who was valuable and who was disposable. Across town, Jiang Man, the so-called true daughter of the Jiang family, raged with jealousy and disbelief. Originally betrothed to Fu Hansheng, she watched from the sidelines as he openly canceled the engagement and extended that same opportunity to Jiang Mo, the illegitimate daughter she had always scorned. Jiang Man, seething to Jiang Ting,
Father, you said Fu Hansheng was disfigured. He's anything but. Now he's humiliating me, and you're telling me to accept it?
Jiang Ting snaps.
If you want to survive his wrath, you'll do as I say. Let Jiang Mo handle him. She has no choice. Meanwhile, we find a way to keep our stock from plunging.
Their entire conversation was steeped in arrogance and scheming, revealing the true, selfish nature at the heart of the Jiang household. One evening, Jiang Mo discovered a portrait of a beautiful necklace inside Fu Hansheng's study. Sister Lian, one of the older house staff, explained it was called Shining Star, a precious necklace Fu Hansheng's late mother had cherished. That necklace, rumor said, was lost or possibly taken by another branch of the Fu family. Quietly, Jiang Mo vowed to find it for him. She thought that if she could do this one good deed beyond her father's manipulations, maybe she could soften his guarded heart and prove she wasn't just another selfish member of the Jiang clan. But with so many bitter memories between them, she wondered if there was any chance they could truly trust each other. She dreaded that every show of kindness might be overshadowed by the impossible vendetta he held against the Jiangs. Time passed in uneasy truce. Yet in the shadows, more threats converged. Rivals from the business underworld circled like sharks, stoking old feuds and alliances. A retired movie queen named Hua Ying emerged, revealing hidden ties to Fu Hansheng's father. Whispers of unspeakable betrayals and grudges between the Fu and Jiang families grew louder each day. Meanwhile, Jiang Mo clung to one desperate mission: to keep her mother safe and break free of Jiang Ting's oppression. If that meant holding on to Fu Hansheng, she would do so, until she could find a better way out. Little did she know how entwined her fate had already become with his, or how quickly the lines between forced marriage and genuine feeling would begin to blur. Under the glittering veneer of Haicheng's wealth, deep wounds and hidden passions awaited them both. Fueled by vengeance, bound by a single night of fate, Jiang Mo and Fu Hansheng stood at the edge of a precipice. With each passing day, alliances shifted, secrets unraveled, and a fragile kind of closeness began to spark between them, one that would soon be tested in ways neither could imagine. Would Fu Hansheng's rage devour the Jiang family before Jiang Mo managed to save her mother? Would Jiang Mo's unwavering courage be enough to melt the ice around Fu Hansheng's heart? As their bond continued to form, the city around them rumbled with the promise of an explosive reckoning yet to come. If you were Jiang Mo, what would you do in her situation? Comment below. In the wake of their involuntary union, Jiang Mo and Fu Hansheng stood on precarious ground. Pressured by her father's threats, Jiang Mo had reluctantly accepted a marriage she neither asked for nor understood. Meanwhile, Fu Hansheng, still burning with unresolved vengeance, found himself torn between his deeply rooted hatred of the Jiang family and a reluctant fascination with the very woman he believed was responsible for saving him 2 years prior. Yet, as days turned into weeks, the thin veil of hostility between them began to crack. Jiang Mo, defying his expectations, showed both resilience and a startling empathy for his pains. And Fu Hansheng, though proud, could not deny the stirrings of something more than mere rage whenever she was near. Despite the shadows cast by family secrets, hidden agendas, and the ever-present threat of revenge, the pair gradually ventured into a fragile truce. But with powerful enemies closing in and betrayals lurking in every corner, neither of them could guess how close they now stood to the brink of a calamitous climax, one that would test the limits of their will, their courage, and the promise they never thought they'd share. Jiang Mo hovered in front of a tall mirror in the hallway, carefully arranging a simple scarf to hide the faint bruises on her shoulder. They were reminders of the many times she clashed with Fu Hansheng's uncompromising temper. At the same time, they served as proof of her own inner fire. She had not cowered, not even once, despite how overwhelmingly powerful he was. Just then, an older servant, Sister Lian, approached.
Madam, the young master left for his office early today. He asked me to remind you that your first day at the Fu Lin Art Academy will start at 10. Please don't be late.
Jiang Mo nodded, her mind drifting to the memory of Fu Hansheng handing her the acceptance letter to the Fu Lin Art Academy. Despite it being a gift of sorts, there was a weighty undercurrent to that gesture. Was this an attempt to control her life, or was he granting her a genuine opportunity to pursue her dreams? When Sister Lian turned to go, Jiang Mo whispered her thanks, feeling a swirl of emotions she couldn't quite name. Rain clouds drifted across the sky, lending a moody cast to the otherwise grandiose art campus. Inside a spacious studio, Jiang Mo introduced herself to the famed art professor, Uncle Nan, who welcomed her with a kindly smile.
Ah, so you're the new student Hansheng mentioned. I hear you have a natural gift for painting. Consider me impressed already. He rarely speaks well of anyone.
The words caught Jiang Mo by surprise, and her cheeks flushed. She had never heard Fu Hansheng praise her.
Thank you, Uncle Nan. I'll do my best to learn quickly and contribute to the Academy's exhibition.
Uncle Nan motioned for her to follow him deeper into the studio, where dozens of canvases lined the walls, each one depicting serene landscapes or delicate glimpses of everyday life. Another student stood at the far end, refining the colors of a half-finished painting.
That young man there is Lu Qinghua, my other disciple. He'll be your senior. He's quite accomplished already. Some say he's the rising star of our academy.
Jiang Mo stepped forward, curiosity piqued. As soon as Lu Qinghua turned around, Jiang Mo froze. Recognition sparked in her eyes. There was something uncannily familiar about his gentle face, almost as if she'd seen him in another life.
Junior sister, welcome. I'm Lu Qinghua.
I'm Jiang Mo. It's nice to meet you.
She couldn't shake the odd sense that their paths had crossed before. Indeed, faint images of a day on a Parisian street, returning a lost sketchbook, flickered in her memory. But everything had happened so fast, and her head swam with the flood of new information. Lu Qinghua graciously invited her to help categorize paintings for an upcoming exhibition. They spent the morning in earnest discussion, analyzing brushstrokes, color palettes, and composition. Yet, through it all, Jiang Mo felt a gnawing sense of unease. She recalled Fu Hansheng's warning glare whenever he spoke of another man. That same evening, Jiang Mo returned home feeling both invigorated by her new artistic pursuits and uneasy about the day's many revelations. The moment she stepped inside, she sensed tension brimming in the air. A man in a dark suit was leaving hastily, shooting her a glance of disdain before disappearing through the tall doors. Fu Hansheng, emerging from the shadows, voice cool.
You're late. I sent a car to pick you up at 4. It's now nearly 7.
I stayed back to help with the exhibition preparations. That's part of my commitment to the Academy, right?
Fu Hansheng's gaze darkened, and Jiang Mo braced herself for another argument. Instead, he simply turned away, muttering about dinner. She followed him hesitantly into the dining room, where an array of lavish dishes filled a marble-topped table. Fu Hansheng quietly as they take seats.
Sister Lian cooked. Eat. And from now on, if you're running late, let me know.
His tone had more tension than warmth. Yet Jiang Mo detected a sliver of concern masked behind that commanding facade.
I will next time. Thank you for arranging the academy. It means more to me than you realize.
An awkward hush filled the room, punctuated by the soft clinking of plates. Jiang Mo began to suspect that Fu Hansheng's outward harshness stemmed less from cruelty and more from a lack of knowing how to express genuine care. But just as a faint, tentative peace seemed to settle between them, the household staff rushed in to announce an unexpected visitor, Jiang Man, the legitimate daughter of Jiang Ting. Sister Lian, anxious.
Sir, madam, Miss Jiang Man insists on seeing you. She's in the foyer.
Fu Hansheng, clenching his jaw.
She's the one who was originally betrothed to me. Let's see what trouble she brings.
Jiang Man stood in full regalia, wearing a smug expression as though she belonged in the Fu mansion far more than Jiang Mo did. The moment Jiang Mo appeared, Jiang Man curled her lip in disdain. Jiang Man, sarcastic laugh.
Well, the illegitimate daughter living the high life as Mrs. Fu, I see. Aren't you full of surprises?
Jiang Mo, voice tight.
Why are you here?
Instead of answering immediately, Jiang Man's cold eyes flickered over to Fu Hansheng. Jiang Man to Fu Hansheng. My father wants me to remind you of our family's original marriage agreement. You've chosen the wrong bride. The shareholders find it unorthodox, and so do I. They're all waiting for your next move.
The original arrangement was never your father's alone. My grandfather was involved. If the Jiang family felt slighted, they should have come to me directly, not send you to cause trouble. Now, get out.
Jiang Man, raising her voice with desperation.
If you don't plan to fix this, the Jiang group will collapse. Do you know what that means for your so-called wife here?
She paused, turning to Jiang Mo with a sneer. Jiang Man, mockingly sweet.
Surely you don't want your mother's medical support to stop. Daddy and I can arrange that in no time.
In an instant, alarm bells went off in Jiang Mo's mind. Her mother was still a hostage of sorts, reliant on the Jiang family's grudging care. She hadn't yet told Fu Hansheng the full extent of that threat. Panic flared. Before Jiang Man could say more, Fu Hansheng stepped forward, his cold glare practically slicing the air. Fu Hansheng, menacing calm.
Don't you dare threaten her. I'll handle Jiang Ting myself.
Jiang Man's eyes flickered with the sting of defeat, but she let out a contemptuous snort.
If you ruin us, you'll hurt your own wife. Remember that, Mr. Fu.
With that parting shot, she spun on her heel and stormed out, leaving Jiang Mo shaken at the reminders of her mother's precarious situation. Feeling cornered by Jiang Man's threats, Jiang Mo finally found the courage to approach Fu Hansheng in his private study. He was seated behind a large mahogany desk, documents stacked high to one side, a single lamp casting sharp shadows on his rigid features. Jiang Mo, quietly.
I need to talk to you about my mother.
Fu Hansheng, looking up, gaze guarded.
Then speak. I'm listening.
Jiang Mo took a steadying breath and recounted what little she knew. Her mother, Shu Qing, had been forced to remain under Jiang Ting's thumb for years, withheld necessary medications unless Jiang Mo toed the line. Even as she spoke, she fought back tears of humiliation. Jiang Mo, voice trembling with frustration.
I don't know where she is. I haven't seen her in so long. All my father said was that if I refuse to stay married to you and cooperate, he'll...
She couldn't finish. Fu Hansheng's eyes narrowed and he stood abruptly.
I'll find your mother.
You will?
I said I'd protect you. I keep my word, besides.
He turned away, as if revealing a rare vulnerability, and murmured,
You're mine. The Jiang family can't threaten what belongs to me.
Something in his tone, a complexity of anger, protectiveness, and maybe a flicker of guilt, caused Jiang Mo's heart to pound. Even if his claim was possessive, it felt like a fragile hope. True to his promise, Fu Hansheng dispatched his trusted assistant, Ah Yong, to search for any trace of Shu Qing. Behind Jiang Mo's back, he also set a plan in motion to undermine Jiang Ting's shady dealings, ensuring that if the Jiang family tried to harm Shu Qing, it would cost them dearly. Meanwhile, at the Fulin Art Academy, Jiang Mo toiled away at her paintings, confiding her worries to Lu Qinghua. He noticed her troubled expression as she stared at a blank canvas, her brush trembling in her hand. Lu Qinghua, concerned,
You've barely touched your canvas all morning. Is something the matter?
I'm just worried about my mom and everything else.
I may not know the full story, but if there's ever anything I can do...
Before she could respond, Uncle Nan stepped in, instructing them to help prepare the main gallery for an upcoming charity auction, one rumored to display Fu Hansheng's late mother's necklace, Shining Star. Night fell upon a lavish ballroom where the auction was set to begin. Glistening chandeliers illuminated wealthy patrons mingling over cocktails. Jiang Mo arrived, invited by Fu Hansheng to accompany him on behalf of the Fu family, even though his grandmother, old Mrs. Fu, was the official hostess. But from the moment they stepped into the opulent room, tension crackled in the air. The Fu group's bitter rival, Li Beichen, was rumored to be in attendance. So was Hua Ying, the retired movie queen who had questionable ties to Fu Hansheng's late father. And, overshadowing it all, was Fu Hansheng's own grandmother, who never hid her open hostility towards her grandson. At the auction, Jiang Mo spotted a glimmering necklace displayed in a glass case. Instinct told her it must be the famed Shining Star. Nearby, Hua Ying stood in a dark gown, face impassive as she regarded the crowd. Excitement reached a fever pitch as the auctioneer introduced the night's highlight, auctioneer, formal tone.
Ladies and gentlemen, the final treasure for this evening is none other than the Shining Star, one of the rarest custom-designed pieces believed to be commissioned by the late Master Fu for his beloved wife.
Jiang Mo cast a sideways glance at Fu Hansheng, who appeared rigid, distant, yet undeniably intent on reclaiming that symbol of his mother's memory. Various wealthy bidders raised their paddles. The figures began at a steep 10 million and soared upward in dizzying increments, 12 million, 15 million, 20 million. Just when Jiang Mo thought it couldn't climb higher, a chilling voice resounded behind them. Huiying, clear, measured tone.
50 million.
A hush fell. The sum was enormous, nearly double the previous bids. Huiying delivered the number with unnerving calm, her gaze never leaving the shimmering necklace. Auctioneer, excitement.
50 million once, 50 million twice. Sold to Madame Hua Ying for 50 million.
Shock reverberated through Jiang Mo. She turned to Fu Hansheng, expecting him to make a dramatic counteroffer, but his face was cold and unreadable. It was as if a tempest of old grudges now raged silently within him. The crowd dispersed into private gathering rooms for drinks and networking. Jiang Mo clutched her small purse, uneasy. She spotted Fu Hansheng slipping away to confront Hua Ying. Concerned, she followed, careful to keep her distance as she listened from around a corner.
You knew how important Shining Star is to the Fu family, yet you outbid us with no hesitation. Why? Do you truly believe you have any right to that necklace?
That necklace was made at your father's request back when I was the one he truly loved. Your mother forced her way into his life. You, Fu Hansheng, are fighting a losing battle if you want to rewrite the past.
The mention of that old scandalous rumor, a love triangle, sent a fresh wave of shock through Jiang Mo. So Hua Ying had been more than just a friend to Fu Hansheng's father? Fu Hansheng, voice trembling with rage.
Don't spin your old lies. You're the one who destroyed my family, leading to my father's death. You don't deserve to keep a relic of my mother's memory.
Huiying, sad smile.
Your father commissioned it for me. Did your mother never tell you? Tisk. Maybe she knew, and it drove her mad. Maybe it pushed her over the edge. You truly don't know the half of it, my dear child.
Unable to remain silent, Jiang Mo stepped forward, inserting herself between them. She didn't know the entire truth, but she recognized the torment in Fu Hansheng's face.
Madam Hua Ying, it's no business of mine what happened years ago. But right now, your choice to flaunt that necklace feels like a cruel blow. Whatever your reasons, this is hurting Hansheng. And for that alone, I won't stand by.
Hua Ying, eyes narrowing.
So protective are we. One might think you've grown feelings for this man.
Jiang Mo held her head high, refusing to back down. Fu Hansheng clenched his fists.
Don't waste your breath, Jiang Mo. She thrives on manipulation. Let's go.
They strode off, leaving Hua Ying behind with her smug expression, yet a seed of new questions had taken root in Jiang Mo's mind. Had Fu Hansheng's mother truly stolen Hua Ying's lover? Or was this another twisted version of events, carefully scripted to tear him down? As they re-entered the bustling main hall, an abrupt announcement came from old Mrs. Fu, who demanded that her grandson remain behind for a family matter. Old Mrs. Fu's dressing room. Away from prying eyes, old Mrs. Fu sat propped against silk cushions, her once sharp gaze dulled by heartbreak and the early confusion of an illness. The doctor had hinted it might be the onset of dementia. Still, the old woman managed to fix Fu Hansheng with a reproachful glare. Old Mrs. Fu, voice quavering with anger.
If only my son were here, none of this would be happening. You, Hansheng, are the reason he's dead.
Fu Hansheng, bowing his head slightly.
You've said this for years, Grandma, but it's not true.
Old Mrs. Fu, muttering in delirium.
He chased your mother's car, tried to stop her from leaving and crashed. If she hadn't tried to take you away, if you'd never been born.
She broke off, sobbing. Jiang Mo, waiting at the doorway, felt her heart twist painfully at the old woman's grief and misguided blame. Hua Ying's earlier accusations now echoed in Jiang Mo's mind, mingling with old Mrs. Fu's laments. The tragedy of Fu Hansheng's father's death seemed to be tangled in multiple narratives, each one painting a different villain. When Fu Hansheng finally emerged from that room, his face was pale, eyes remote. Jiang Mo instinctively reached out to him.
Are you all right?
He merely nodded, silence adding a wordless acknowledgement of his pain, and led her wordlessly back to the car. A tense hush pervaded the limousine as it navigated Haicheng's neon-lit avenues. Jiang Mo tried once or twice to initiate conversation, but Fu Hansheng stared out the window, lost in brooding thoughts. Finally, they arrived at the towering gates. The moment they stepped inside, a servant rushed forward, face ashen.
Sir, there's a problem. It's about Miss Jiang Mo's mother.
What happened?
She escaped from wherever the Jiang family kept her. She's in Haicheng Central Hospital now. Something about a fall. The message was unclear, but it seems she was badly hurt.
Jiang Mo went cold, her mind racing with possibilities. Had her mother tried a daring escape to free herself from Jiang Ting's grip? Was this a trap? Or had she truly managed to slip away, only to be injured in the attempt? Before she could utter a word, Fu Hansheng was already barking orders to have a car readied. The hospital hallway smelled of disinfectant. Nurses hustled past with charts and equipment. Jiang Mo sat rigid on a bench, fear churning in her stomach. Fu Hansheng stood beside her, scanning every face that emerged from the operating room. At last, the doctor stepped out, removing a surgical mask.
Xu Qing's condition is stable for now. She suffered a severe fracture from her fall and lost quite a bit of blood, but she's out of immediate danger.
Thank goodness. Can I see her?
She's unconscious at the moment. Please wait until the nurse confirms she's fully stable.
Jiang Mo's relief was profound, and she sank against the wall, tears threatening to spill. Fu Hansheng's stance softened as he observed her. Though his expression remained guarded, he reached out and gently touched her shoulder.
I promised you I'd protect her.
Jiang Mo swallowed hard, fresh gratitude blending with the conflicting emotions she felt for this powerful, sometimes ruthless man. Just then, Jiang Ting barged into the corridor, flanked by none other than Jiang Man. The father and daughter wore identical scowls of fury.
What's the meaning of this, Fu Hansheng? You meddled in our affairs, didn't you? Where is Shu Qing? That woman is still under my jurisdiction.
Your jurisdiction? Don't make me laugh. She's free now. You can't use her against Jiang Mo or me ever again.
You dare cross me like this? The Jiang Group.
The Jiang Group is already one step away from bankruptcy. Watch your words or you'll only hasten your downfall.
Jiang Man let out a sardonic laugh, pointing an accusatory finger at Jiang Mo. Jiang Man to Jiang Mo.
You think saving your mother this way changes anything? Look at the big picture. If the Jiang family collapses, you lose all ties to resources, and you'll drag Fu Hansheng with you.
Jiang Mo, cutting in, voice steady.
Enough. My mother is safe. That's all I care about. What you and father do with your bankrupt group, that's your own business.
Her resolute words, while entirely true, surprised even herself. She hadn't realized how far she'd come from being that fearful, powerless daughter. In that crowded hospital corridor, the lines between family and foe were drawn more starkly than ever. Jiang Ting fumed, plotting his next move. Jiang Man stood smoldering in bitterness, refusing to accept that her half-sister had seized power from her. Fu Hansheng, though triumphant in freeing Shu Qing, remained entangled in an ever-deepening mystery surrounding his parents' past, Hua Ying's true role, and the unrelenting malice of his grandmother's grief. Amid it all, Jiang Mo found herself caught between newly awakened devotion to Fu Hansheng and her desperate desire to break free from family obligations. Their tenuous bond had brought about a small miracle, her mother's safety, but at what price? Dark clouds loomed on the horizon. Li Beichen, the cunning rival, was stirring the pot from the shadows. Old Mrs. Fu's hold on the family empire could shift at any moment, and the furious Jiang family refused to yield. Against the backdrop of medical beeps and hushed footsteps, Jiang Mo clung to the hand of a man who was both terrifying in his power and unexpectedly steady in crisis. Whether they realized it or not, their journey was about to escalate into a final confrontation, one that would decide not just the fate of the Jiang and Fu families, but their own fragile hearts. Everything had shifted in those few, breathless hours. Jiang Mo recalled the moment she first discovered her mother's whereabouts, spirits soaring at the promise of reunion, then plummeting at the realization that Shu Qing had been forced to leap from captivity. Now her mother lay resting under crisp white sheets, battered but alive, her breathing steady. At times, Jiang Mo brushed stray hairs from her mother's forehead, gently assuring herself that this was all real, that her mother truly was within reach. Nearby, Fu Hansheng conferred with the hospital staff in low, urgent voices, arranging specialized care, transferring funds, and quietly directing his aides to guard Shu Qing's door day and night. Though his methods were brusque and focused, Jiang Mo sensed a deeper current running through his every word. At times, his gaze flickered to her, laced with concern that he struggled to hide. In the days that followed, Fu Hansheng insisted on moving Shu Qing to a private recovery suite within the Fu family's influence, guaranteeing her safety against further threats from Jiang Ting. Although Shu Qing was not entirely out of danger, the new environment and proper medical attention gave her a renewed chance at recuperation. Despite the cautious sense of relief, the atmosphere around the Fu estate grew heavier. Old Mrs. Fu's condition worsened, her outbursts more frequent. Sometimes she stirred from confused slumber just to hurl accusations at her grandson, still blaming him for the tragedies of the past. Hua Ying, the retired movie queen, prowled on the periphery, maintaining her claim that Shining Star rightfully belonged to her, provoking Fu Hansheng with half-veiled remarks whenever she could. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, the Jiang group hovered on the brink of collapse, fueling Jiang Ting's fury and pushing him to desperate measures. One overcast afternoon, as thunder rumbled in the distance, Jiang Mo found herself in Fu Hansheng's private study. Stacks of documents related to the Jiang Group takeover crowded the desk, and a hush settled over every corner of the mansion. She gazed at the intricately carved wooden shelves, noticing a small, dusty box tucked away in a hidden recess. Something about it drew her closer, and she lifted the lid to find old photographs, faded letters, and a single ring wrapped in silk. While carefully examining these relics, she sensed the weight of an untold story. Many of the letters were penned in a delicate female hand, likely from Fu Hansheng's mother, and referenced a deep, harrowing pain over her husband's alleged infidelity. There was a poignant mention of Hua Ying, described alternately as a friend and a betrayer, culminating in heartbreak that had seemingly plunged the entire Fu household into ruin. As Jiang Mo skimmed those lines, her heart constricted at the rawness of the mother's voice. Suddenly, the study door swung open and Fu Hansheng stood in the doorway. He saw the box in her hands and hesitated, clearly torn between anger and resignation. At length, he simply motioned for her to set it aside. In that unspoken pause, Jiang Mo sensed that all the bitterness and confusion swirling around the Fu family traced back to those very pages, a tangle of sorrow, jealousy, and betrayal that even he struggled to fully unravel. Over the next few days, amid hospital visits to Shuqing and carefully orchestrated business meetings, Fu Hansheng gradually revealed more of his family's troubled history. He did so in fragments, glimpses of the father he barely remembered, the mother whose heartbreak overshadowed every memory, the grandmother who never forgave the tragic outcome of that fateful car chase. Jiang Mo listened, letting each piece of the story settle upon her heart. In one particularly poignant moment, she stood beside him at the French doors of his upstairs balcony, watching rain lash the garden below. As water droplets streaked the glass, he spoke softly of his nightmares, memories of kneeling at his mother's bedside, hearing her tearful laments about a husband stolen by another woman, enduring the old lady's cold stares that labeled him a curse. He confessed that for years he avoided forming close bonds with anyone, determined only to build an empire vast enough to erase his family's shame. Though words were few, the confession bound them more intimately than any formal vow. Jiang Mo realized that while her father had sold her into marriage, fate had guided her to a man whose own pain nearly mirrored her own. Love and fear collided within her, forging a silent promise that she would stand by him as best she could, even if the world deemed him a violent CEO, even if his methods appeared cold and merciless on the surface. Yet the calm between them could not endure for long. One final storm was brewing, thanks to Jiang Ting's desperation to salvage the Jiang Group. Soon enough, rumors spread of a clandestine partnership between Jiang Ting and Li Beichen, Fu Hansheng's cunning cousin. Their plan was simple and vicious: incite panic among the Fu Group's shareholders, use old Mrs. Fu's frailty to sow chaos, and exploit the half-truths about Fu Hansheng's parentage to undermine his credibility. As the Jiang Group's stock floundered, Li Beichen orchestrated a hostile maneuver, seizing control of smaller businesses under the Fu umbrella. Word reached Fu Hansheng that certain board members were unsettled, uncertain if their CEO's personal vendettas had become a liability. Meanwhile, gossip circulated that old Mrs. Fu might name an alternative heir, someone who wasn't, in her eyes, stained by tragedy. Behind the scenes, Jiang Ting plotted to capture Shuqing once more, hoping that if he once again held her life in his hands, he could force Jiang Mo to sabotage Fu Hansheng from within. But Fu Hansheng, anticipating a betrayal, doubled security. In the midst of these clandestine power moves, Jiang Mo realized with dread that her father was capable of anything, even risking his daughter's safety, to cling to power. Late one night, the Fu mansion trembled with commotion as an intruder slipped through the gates, a disillusioned former associate who sought revenge against Fu Hansheng on Jiang Ting's orders. Alarms blared through the corridors, security rushed in. Jiang Mo, startled awake, hurried to find Fu Hansheng confronting the trespasser in the foyer. Lightning flashed through the mansion windows as the man brandished a weapon. In the brief chaos, a shot echoed, and Jiang Mo screamed, convinced someone had been hurt. But when the smoke cleared, Fu Hansheng stood unscathed, eyes ablaze, fists clenched. The man had missed his mark and was quickly subdued. Stricken by the closeness of death, Jiang Mo fell into Fu Hansheng's arms, trembling with relief. That very night, Fu Hansheng unleashed the full weight of his retribution. He publicly exposed the labyrinth of Jiang Ting's corruption, including suspicious financial transactions and the hush money used to hire the would-be assassin. Files were sent to the authorities, sealing Jiang Ting's fate. Within hours, police descended on the Jiang estate, arresting him. For years, he had used Jiang Mo's mother as leverage. Now he faced the crushing repercussions of his misdeeds. With Jiang Ting's downfall, the immediate threat to Shu Qing vanished. Under careful medical care, she showed steady improvement, finally reclaiming glimpses of peace that had eluded her for so long. At her bedside, Jiang Mo clutched her mother's hand, recounting what had happened, the heartbreak, the near escapes, the quiet bravery Fu Hansheng had displayed in protecting them both. Shu Qing's eyes filled with tears, and her hand squeezed Jiang Mo's in a gesture of deep gratitude. Meanwhile, Li Beichen attempted a last-ditch maneuver to usurp power within the Fu group, yet Fu Hansheng had predicted every move. Armed with evidence of collusion and sabotage, he decisively removed Li Beichen from any position of influence. The betrayal was swift and humiliating. Furious that his scheme had crumbled, Li Beichen fled Haicheng, leaving behind only rumors of how he might plot his return someday. With those threats neutralized, old Mrs. Fu's health entered a gentler phase. Though her mind wavered, she showed glimpses of lucidity. One evening, she called Fu Hansheng to her side and simply gazed upon him with tear-filled regret. Perhaps she recognized the child she had spurned, or perhaps she recalled the lost son she once cherished. Either way, no harsh words were spoken. In that silent encounter, a lifetime of sorrow hovered between them before receding into the darkness. In the quiet weeks that followed, life in Haicheng found a new equilibrium. Jiang Ting remained detained. Jiang Man retreated from society's spotlight. And Shu Qing at last ventured outside with the support of a cane, feeling sunlight warm her face. Fu Hansheng took on the challenge of stabilizing the Fu group, forging cautious truces with investors, and restoring trust in the wake of scandal. One afternoon, Jiang Mo wandered through the Fulin Art Academy's tranquil garden. She paused by a bed of blooming daisies, painting them delicately on a small canvas. The air smelled of fresh blossoms, and faint piano music drifted from a neighboring studio. Though the past weeks had taken their toll, she felt a buoyant sense of relief. Her mother was free, her father's hold on them had snapped, and her own heart, once guarded, had learned to trust in the unexpected kindness that lurked beneath Fu Hansheng's hardened facade. When she finished painting, she caught sight of Fu Hansheng standing beneath the garden's archway. His expression bore a rare gentleness that reminded her of a lost boy, once drowning in sorrow. She approached him, letting her gaze linger on the silhouette that now, more than ever, felt like home. He said little, but in his eyes she saw relief and the faintest flicker of devotion. No official words were exchanged that afternoon, yet each understood something fundamental had shifted. This marriage that once began as a transactional arrangement, marred by the shadow of old grudges, had transformed into a genuine bond. Their hearts carried scars, but they also held promise. The promise of a future not dominated by bitterness and fear, but by quiet resilience and the warmth of shared hope. In the days to come, they would navigate obstacles that life inevitably threw their way. Huaying might reappear to stir controversy about the shining star necklace, or whisper new allegations. Li Beichen might seek vengeance from afar. Old Mrs. Fu might teeter between hostility and remorse. But Jiang Mo and Fu Hansheng, against all odds, had discovered a kind of salvation in each other. Under the golden hue of the late afternoon sun, as breezes rustled the leaves overhead, Jiang Mo closed her eyes and exhaled, allowing the hush of the garden to enfold her in its gentle embrace. She thought of her mother's renewed smile, of the final, quiet acceptance she glimpsed in old Mrs. Fu, and above all, of the hard-won trust forging her bond with this formidable CEO. In her mind, the past no longer felt like a chain. Rather, it was a stepping stone to a more profound understanding, a deeper love. And so, the tale of a girl once sold to a violent CEO reached its conclusion. Within that sweeping journey, where betrayal clashed with loyalty and retribution collided with unexpected tenderness, the darkest nights had given way to the dawn. Jiang Mo and Fu Hansheng stood side by side, no longer as enemies trapped in bitter obligation, but as two souls who had chosen to protect and care for each other, learning that out of the jagged shards of heartbreak, a fierce and unbreakable devotion could indeed emerge. Though trials still lay on the horizon, each day brought the promise of a life built upon courage, empathy, and the memory of a single night that had sparked their fate. Through storms and shadows, their bond proved stronger than vengeance and deeper than fear, an unspoken vow sealed in the quiet spaces between their hearts. Thus ends the story of a girl thrust into a cruel arrangement with a man of dangerous renown, only to discover that within his wounded soul lay a capacity for love that would not only rescue her, but rescue him as well. If you enjoyed this story, there's another video on screen right now. Go ahead and give it a look for an even more astonishing tale. And don't forget, we'll have many more uplifting and dramatic stories coming your way, so make sure you subscribe to our channel. That way, you'll never miss our newest uploads.